It's only a game. Why you have to be...
What is up, heroes of Dominion? My name is Charlie. This is Hero War Central, and this video is going to be all about whether or not you should level up Lilith now that she's been reworked here on Facebook and web. We're going to cover who she's going to be good against. We're going to cover how to counter Lilith, and we're going to cover who she's most like. You might already have a couple of heroes that do exactly what she does already, and that might help you decide whether or not Lilith is somebody that you need to grab. First of all, let's talk about what she does effectively now. All of her skills are all about high magic damage to the center line. She's a little bit squishier since she's an intelligence hero now and not a strength-based hero, but all four of her skills are doing magic damage to the center line. Obviously, there are ways to group up or push back the enemy lineup. You can use like Lars or Dante or potentially even Maya so that Lilith hits more of them. She's going to be very, very strong against those low health, low magic defense enemies that stand in the middle of the enemy team. If we take a look at the max stats on Facebook and web right now, I've got this sorted by least magic defense. You can kind of see some of the heroes that she's going to be very effective against. One of the ones that are going to be most notable that she's going to help destroy very quickly that is a menace right now is Dante. If Dante is not at the absolute front line, if you're not going up against the Dante tank, Dante is going to be very susceptible to your Lilith. But look at all of these heroes. Daredevil is going to be highly susceptible to this. Yasmin's that are in the second, third position. Of course, I mentioned Dante, Kira, Ching Mao, and the list goes on and on. Now, some other notables that you might want to take a look at here are Arachne. We are seeing a lot more Arachnes being used as we get into the more technical side of Guild Wars. Because Lilith is very far back, Arachne does not stun Lilith whenever Arachne uses any of her stun abilities. This combined with her lower magic defense means that Arachne is going to be susceptible to Lilith. Generally speaking, anybody with lower health is also potentially a target. Heidi can avoid one attack, but Heidi has the lowest health in the game right now. We have Kira, let's see, Kark. Kark is going to be super weak to Lilith. We already see that now that he's very weak to magic damage attacks. In fact, I'm leveling up Lilith personally to counter Kark teams with my Kark team. I'm not sure yet who I'm going to pair with these three, but I'm going up against enough Karks in Guild Wars that I'm definitely leveling up Lilith as a means to help counter those enemy Karks. I may even drop my own Kark whenever I go up against those teams. Those mirror match fights I've always struggled with. And then you can just kind of continue down the list of lowest health to max health and kind of see who in the middle is going to be very susceptible. Lars is going to be an easy target. Dante, I already mentioned, is going to be an easy target. I do believe that Iris is going to be easily countered by Lilith. I think enemies that bring Sebastian, I think Sebastian's going to be countered as well. Now, you can easily protect all of these heroes with, various shield mechanisms or magic defense artifacts. So I'm not saying that including a Lilith is automatically going to delete all of these heroes. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what heroes Lilith is going to be good against, right? Now, let's talk about heroes that are going to be good against Lilith. Those heroes that are going to easily counter Lilith. Well, the first and most obvious choice is absolutely going to be our friend Isaac. Now, Isaac's green ability, MP 300 capacitor, is a big reason why Isaac is a hard counter to Aurora. Aurora does area of effect magic damage with her various abilities. He gains charge the more him and his allies take magic damage. Lilith is going to do a lot of area effect damage considering that all four of her abilities are involved in doing area of effect damage. Isaac's ultimate silences enemies for 4 seconds. He's going to be able to spam that ultimate using this green ability. Isaac is going to be the biggest hard counter to Lilith. I already kind of mentioned this, but Aurora does absorb magic damage. At max level, she absorbs 85% of max damage and then reflects it back on the enemy team. Unfortunately, Aurora being in the first position just by herself is not going to be a good counter versus Lilith unless the enemy Lilith team is utilizing some team group up effect, Lars, Maya, or Dante to push enemies back. If they're all grouped up together and Aurora does get that splash damage, Aurora is going to be a fantastic counter to Lilith. You're often going to see Lilith in the 5th position on the enemy team, and while she does have 470,000 health, a good physical attacking team plus Jorgen may be able to kill her quicker than she can kill your team. Generally speaking, I don't usually recommend Jorgen because of how prevalent Sebastians are, and a Sebastian on that Lilith team is going to completely negate all of this. But Jorgen forcing physical damage onto that backline Lilith could be very effective. We're all leveling up Zhu for the LOL Osh team. Zhu is one of the best damage dealers you can use versus any boss fight, so if Lilith is hiding in the rear position, then Zhu is going to be a fantastic choice to deal damage to that backline hero. And finally, if you want to get a little crazy with it, and again, Lilith is in the backline, or maybe Lilith is hiding in the 4th position somehow, you can use Cleaver to either bring Lilith to the front line so that your damage dealers can work on her, or you can pull the 5th hero from the back line, exposing Lilith, forcing Lilith to be the back line. That's another way to kind of counter her a little bit. What heroes am I going to be using with Lilith? I've already discussed a couple of times how much I'm really liking the look of this team. The tank option can vary pretty greatly. It doesn't have to be Rufus. It can be just about any other tank. If everyone is leveling up Iris, then Rufus is going to become the de facto best tank. But really any tank is going to work. Alvanor is tanky enough to handle a couple of hits himself, so you could use Luther instead of a primary tank, or you could even use Ziri instead of a primary tank. All good choices. Of course, Astaroth is going to be a safe choice. Chaba is going to be decent, although he's probably the absolute worst choice. The point that I'm trying to make is just about any tank will work with this lineup. Both Alvanor and Kai have these magic attack artifact weapons that are going to stack very well with Lilith and her damage and her magic penetration artifact, which will then boost Kai and Alvanor's damage output. You have the bonus healing from the Grove Keepers between Kai, Thea, and Alvanor. You have the bonus. All of these heroes are doing just good, solid magic attack damage to the entire enemy team or certain sections of the enemy team. You can just see Kai use his ult and hit everybody. And then following up with Lilith, 2 ults in a row, just crushing the back 4 heroes. This right here is going to be the team that I would start with if I really wanted to build a Lilith team. I would absolutely build a Grove Keeper team. I don't know that it's going to be the most optimized, but to me, it looks like it's the most safe. It's not as terribly weak to any individual set of heroes aside from maybe Isaac and Aurora, like I mentioned earlier. And then in that case, you just throw in your own Iris and you're solid. Now, another option that a lot of people are considering is to pair Lilith with Helios. This is going to combat a whole other lineup of enemy teams. Helios does high magic attack, is one of the highest magic attacks in the game. Also great against critical hit heroes like Yasmin. Anybody that uses Sebastian on the enemy team is going to be using critical hits. One of the issues that Helios has is that he's exposed in the back. Well, Lilith pushes him forward, so he's not as exposed in the back line anymore. And another issue is that he lacks magic penetration, which Lilith will provide plenty of magic penetration. What heroes you put in front of them two doesn't really matter too much. You can add in a healer like Dorian, make this kind of like an LDH team instead of an ODH team. Any tank works. Let's just use Astaroth here for the sake of it. And since we're going up against the Twins team here, let's drop in Sebastian to protect against those watermarks. Let's see how this team does against this Twins Lilith team. I think Twins Lilith are also a strong combination. We'll talk about that lineup next, but let's just see how this works. I don't know if this is going to be as strong as the traditional ODH, but I think that it has some great upsides that Orion is weak to, like enemy Satori's. This is helping protect Helios. It looks like I'm going to struggle against the team initially, but the 2 big damage dealers are gone. Now it's going to matter, can I kill this Martha fast enough? And it looks like I do. So that's another great team that you can use with Lilith, doing kind of an LDH, a Lilith, Dorian, Helios lineup. Add in a support, add in a tank. You can swap Sebastian for any of the other supports that you might need. A Nebula, an Isaac if you'd like. You can probably plug Iris in there if you're really worried about an enemy Aurora. You can use a Jorgen if the enemy team is not using a Sebastian and has a weak hero in the back. And finally, another very strong team that I'm getting a lot of suggestions for are the Twins. Now, this is going to be a very expensive team, considering that Lars and Krista and Lilith are all going to be sharing generally the same items to promote their color rank, as well as, of course, they're all 3 intelligence heroes, so it's going to be kind of expensive. But with this 3, you can basically use any of the solid support heroes as well. You can use Isaac with them. You can use Sebastian with them. Nebula works between the Twins pretty well. You can add in Martha in the back to push them forward, and then add in a tank like Corvus or Chaba. Really, any tank will work. Rufus, Aurora. These 3 are going to be another great team that you can build off of. Pick a tank, pick a healer that you like, you're going to be great. Against this Yasmin, Kai, Jorgen team, we're going to choose Sebastian as a support. The enemy is not using Aurora, so I don't really need Isaac. This is going to downplay the Jorgen debuffs, and we're just going to use, let's use Cleaver to kind of show you what I mean about exposing that backline. Let's try this. We're going to use Cleaver here to yoink the Lilith forward. The Twins are going to do their work. Without an enemy Sebastian, there's no removal of the watermarks. Lars is going to group up the enemy team, and Lilith is going to do her work. Although Lilith died, we still get the victory. The last thing that I want to say is that I feel like Lilith and potentially Iris and a couple of other heroes are going to be added to their own tribe in the very near future. I think that it's going to be Iris, Lilith, potentially Astaroth, maybe Zhu. It might be similar to the Chaos tribe on Hero Wars Mobile, but not exactly. I really feel like that faction is going to be announced soon, and that it should have been announced at Winterfest, but that Nexters and Hero Wars course, Facebook and Web did not get Lilith and the factions done in time for Winterfest. So I would look for that. And if that does end up being a thing, if there does being a demonic tribe or a chaos tribe like on Hero Wars Mobile, then obviously those heroes are going to pair well together as well. So be mindful of that when it does happen. Now, should you level up Lilith if you already have these other heroes? And the other heroes that you might already have leveled up that may negate the use of Lilith, there's a couple. First of all, Orion. Orion is probably the most similar to Lilith. He does a lot of magic attack damage in an area of effect. He charges very quickly. He already provides a magic penetration artifact, so he does do that very well with other mages as well. So he does pair well with just about any other mage that you might want to add to him. They both do a lot of damage very quickly. Very, very similar heroes. Heidi the monkey does a lot of pure damage. His death flower is an area of effect at the center of the enemy team. Generally speaking, between these three, Heidi is attacking a lot of enemies at once. I feel like Heidi's damage output is a little on the lower side. His ultimate only lasts for 3 seconds, so if you can really avoid that pure damage or heal it up quickly, then it's kind of a non-issue. There are some great teams that Heidi works well against because of this spy camo, able to dodge specific things. But as far as overall utility, Heidi doesn't actually do any blind or stun or slow. No, doesn't really boost the damage output of allies either, since his artifact weapon is dodge. But those are just a couple of heroes that provide a similar use case to Lilith. Not exactly, but similar. So if you already have any of those heroes leveled up, you might want to consider just leveling up those heroes continually instead of leveling up Lilith and not wasting the resources. On screen now, I've got a couple of videos discussing Lilith. If you have some time, check them out. The first video is going to be breaking down Lilith's upgrade, her rework, and all of that. So if you haven't really gone over it in detail, please check out that video. It would mean a lot to me if you did. Please leave a like on this video if you found it helpful. I love you all. Good luck in Dominion.